Welcome back to Oulton Park here in Cheshire. On the international circuit, we've got our second race of the day coming up for you, the Focus Cup Championship, round 6 of the 2024 season. And so far, that season has been, well, utterly, and there's no other word for it, dominated by Lewis Clark, who has failed to drop a single championship point. The number 1 car just heading through shot there. But this is a reverse grid race, which means that they reversed in batches of 6. So if you finish first, you start 6th. If you finish 7th, you start 12th, and so on. So let's guide you through the grid then, because the cars are already on their formation lap in what are now damp conditions out there. It was a dry race earlier on. The clouds have started to put a bit of moisture onto the circuit. So let's confirm then the grid for you for this second race. Tom Fuller starts from pole position with Simon Watts alongside, and it's Ian Graham and Craig Appleton that sit there on row number 2. Simon Waugh is on row number 3 with Lewis Clark. Watch out for him if he wants to keep that unbeaten record going. He'll have to come from 6th for the win. And Reece March has Rob Chalmers for company on row number 4. Row 5, it's Richard Wynne and Rick Hall with Ian Mitchell and Craig Ballantyne lining up on row number 6. Sarah Hall, no relation to Rich, is there on row number 7 alongside Abby Walton, and it's Johnny Mitchell and Richard Hay that line up there on row number 8. John Baker was running second but had to retire in the race earlier on, so he could make progress from 17th on the grid. Tom Brown started on the front row and he retired earlier on, so watch out for both cars on row number 9, and row 10 is Jamie Good and John Ogden that sit there on that second row of the grid. I think they're going to have 2 green flag formation laps potentially, because the conditions are now slightly damp. Now, they did qualify this morning in what were dry conditions as well, because their qualifying was a little bit later on today. So because the conditions have changed from what they've got used to so far on circuit, they get a second formation lap for this one. So Lewis Clark claimed the win earlier on today. It was a very dominant win as well. It was 14, nearly 15 seconds that he won by. He also set the fastest lap of the race. He qualified on pole for the first race. So as I say, he is utterly unbeaten. You get maximum points for qualifying. He's had maximum points in every race for the fastest lap. He's won every race so far. But if he wants to do it in this one, he's going to have to come from 6th on the grid to the lead and set the fastest lap of the race somehow to keep that unbeaten record going. And remember, he is the reigning champion as well. Now, Tom Fuller, earlier on today, he finished 6th, and he was involved with a good battle with the likes of Craig Ballantyne, so he'll be hoping that he can resume that battle. But of course, because he finished 6th and Craig Ballantyne finished 7th, it's that reverse grid aspect. So all of a sudden, Tom Fuller starts from pole, and Craig Ballantyne, who was 1 place behind him and only a second off him, starts from 12th on the grid. So 7th, you end up 12th. If you're 6th, you end up 1st. So they are entirely different ends of the grid in reality. But that's the great thing about Focus Cup racing. They do mix it up. After here at Oulton Park, they'll head to Silverstone on the 27th of July, the Grand Prix circuit. Again, we'll be bringing you all of those races live stream. They'll then go to Croft in August. Don't think we're live streaming that one, but they'll be back on live stream at Donington Park on the 14th of September, and we'll conclude the championship season at Snetterton on the 5th of October, and see as to who might follow in the footsteps of Lewis Clark. Last year's champion, Liam McGill, won it the year before. It was Simon Rudd that won it in 2021. Andy Godfrey was the 2020 champion, and Andy Wilmot, who nowadays we see racing things like TCR, was the champion in 2019. So we've never, since the introduction of the Focus Cup, had a double champion. It's always been a different champion, but the way Lewis Clark is going this year, you'd be hard pushed to bet against him, one would have thought. So watch out from the tail end of the field for the number 10 car, which is largely blue, of John Baker. I'd also watch out for the number 28 car of Tom Brown, who is largely white with blue and red flashes to it. Lots of smoke coming from the back of Ian Mitchell's already, which is a slight cause for concern. But hopefully he will be able to continue. So there is the pink flashes. That is Lewis Clark, the championship leader, just heading through shot now. Ian Mitchell's rather smoky car just heading past us. Let's say keep an eye on both cars from the 9th row of the grid. Number 10, John Baker. Number 28, Thomas Brown. A couple of drivers that are certainly not where they ought to be on the grid, purely based on the pace that they had either in qualifying earlier on today or in the race. Now, conditions, I would say, are probably the wettest that we've seen. You can see as the cars are weaving around that they are leaving a telltale tyre mark in the wet tarmac, so it's probably as wet as the Ford Focus competitors have encountered all weekend here. It's just a single day meeting for the Ford Focus cars again. And we've got 15 minutes to try and establish as to who might be able to get rid of the stranglehold from Lewis Clark on this championship, or might he hang on to that stranglehold? So here they come up onto the grid. Tom Fuller's car, black, white and orange on the front row of the grid. Simon Watts, slightly more orange, that sits alongside. Row 2 of the grid is the green machine in the hands of Ian Graham. And then it's black and yellow and white for Craig Appleton. Row 3 of the grid, it's the grey car. Some very small orange flashes to it in the hands of Simon Waugh, alongside the car with the blue and the pink little flashes to it. But it's largely silver and black of Lewis Clark. All of these cars diesel engined, remember. So 2-litre TDCi engines, about 175 brake horsepower, 248 pounds-feet of torque, 6-speed manual gearboxes, and it's the Ford Focus shape from 2007 to 2010. The newer Focus shape, the Mark 3.5, scheduled to be introduced as a petrol engine class for next year, and those cars should be about 5 seconds quicker by the time the car is fully developed over the winter. 5-second board held aloft. Tom Fuller sitting now in pole position with Simon Watts alongside. Simon Watts with a lot more experience of getting these cars off the line relative to Tom. And when the red lights go out, which they do now, hopefully for the final time today, damp track, who gets the better start? It's not a bad start at all from Tom Fuller. And if anything, Simon Watts, who's got the more experience, is slow away. He's lost out to Ian Graham and might just lose out to Lewis Clark, who is already up into 3rd place by the time they get through Oulton Corner for the first time. So from 6th on the grid up to 3rd, a brilliant launch from the reigning champion and championship leader, and he's now setting his sights about, trying to close up on the green car of Ian Graham, whilst Tom Fuller looks to see at the wheel of the AST liveried car whether he can romp away in the lead of the race. Ian Graham out of Cascades, trying to cover off, if he can, Lewis Clark, who's close to him, but he should be able to hang on to 2nd place as they turn their way through Island Bend for the first time. Foray into the unknown, because of course they did 2 formation laps, but they weren't anywhere near the kind of pace that they're doing now, that they're under full racing conditions. So Tom Fuller leads from Ian Graham in 2nd place. Lewis Clark there in 3rd position. Who's there in 4th at the moment? It's going to be Simon Waugh that's there in 4th place. 5th, I think, is Reece Marsh, who's there in 5th place. He's had a good start as well, because he's come from 7th on the grid as they head through the Britain chicane for the first time. And then I think Simon Watts from 2nd on the grid has dropped down to the bottom of the top 6 at this stage. So Lewis Clark weaving around, trying to put off Ian Graham in any way, shape or form that he can. Most of them still with their windscreen wipers on, suggesting that there's still a chunk of moisture out there. But Tom Fuller leading the way at the moment. And if anything, looking to try and break away a little bit from Ian Graham. If he can leave Ian Graham in 2nd place, squabbling away with Lewis Clark, that's exactly the break that he would want. But Lewis Clark, as the champion, knows how to drive these cars and has been doing all of the winning so far this year, all of the qualifying on pole and all of the fastest laps. Not dropped a single point in the championship. And now, what can he do about squeezing his way through into 2nd place? Well, he's trying hard out of Druids to try and prise a door open, but that door is only going to be open on the outside line heading in towards Lodge Corner. And now he looks to try and move up the inside, but that's covered off. Tom Fuller at the same time is trying to close the door on Ian Graham, who's prized it open, and Ian Graham is going to lead at the end of the first lap of the race. Tom Fuller runs a little bit wide, and that allows Lewis Clark to move up into 2nd place, and now Lewis Clark might have the run on Ian Graham to pick up the lead of the race as they head up towards Old Hall Corner. Ian Graham is trying to push him over towards the pit wall, but Lewis Clark is through and has picked up the lead of the race. Ian Graham down into 2nd, Simon Waugh's up to 3rd, and poor old Tom Fuller now shuffled down into 4th, but is trying to re-attack again, the novice driver. And there's contact between himself and Simon Waugh. Simon Waugh, accident into the barriers on the left-hand side. The car is going to be out of the race. And that was just a little bit of contact between Simon Waugh and Tom Fuller. And that has certainly brought about the end of Simon Waugh's race. Well, what has happened to Tom Fuller, we'll have to wait and see. Ian Mitchell's car is still a little bit smoky. It was on the formation lap, but it doesn't seem to be getting any worse at all. Tom Fuller's still there in 3rd place, actually. So Lewis Clark leads the way. Now he can now set about maybe trying to push to get the fastest lap in the race, because that's at the moment in the early stages going the way of Ian Graham, but we've only completed 1 lap. And of course that was the standing start, so that will be improved upon. Ian Graham's there in 2nd place. Tom Fuller's in 3rd. That now means that Reece Marsh moves up into 4th position. However, I think the safety car is on standby. Yeah, and the safety car is coming out onto circuit because of that accident that befell Simon Waugh. So, safety car heading out onto track. Slightly unwieldy for the flagman there, having to have a large safety car board. Good job it's not a windy day. There's a bit of a breeze, but having to hold up the big safety car board and wave the yellow flag at the same time. Not the easiest of things. That's the kind of board you want. Slightly smaller, got 2 handles. So, safety car out there. That will bunch the pack up. We'll need to get Simon Waugh just checked over. I'm sure he's out of the car and is absolutely fine. They will need to inspect the barrier damage as well, though, because that car did take a bit of a hit in towards the barriers. Car stood up well, I've got to say. But we'll wait and see as to actually how much racing we get in this second Focus Cup Championship race. There's Jamie Good. He's behind Simon Watts. So Simon Watts was 6th over the start-finish line last time through. I think Ian Mitchell has lost a few places. His car was looking smoky, so he was in 7th place, but I think he's dropped down towards the bottom of the top 10, actually, with the smoky number 81 car, and could well be destined for the pit lane at the end of this lap. Let's just have a quick look. There's Ian Mitchell now. And he is, yeah, he's heading towards the pit lane. I thought he might. So Ian Mitchell has decided that it's just not going to be in this race. Either he can tell that there's a performance deficit in the car, or he just doesn't want to cause any further damage. As from the cars I said to watch out for from the back of the grid, well, number 10, John Baker, has just gone through shot, and he is up to 7th place from 17th on the grid. I did say watch out for him. And the other car I said was Thomas Brown, number 28. He's up to 14th position from 18th on the grid, so they have both made reasonable progress. Here, Mitchell's car looking rather smoky as it heads into the pit lane there. Bonnet up, team investigating. But safety car still out there on circuit whilst we scoop up Simon Waugh's car from where it came to rest, which was just at the top of Denton's and probably slid a little bit further down on the wet grass down towards the inside of Cascades. So yeah, lots of smoke on Ian Mitchell's car. That car, without question, will not be rejoining the race. So safety car out there. We'd only had the one flying lap before the safety car came out. So at the moment, the fastest lap of the race is heading in the general direction of Ian Graham in 2nd place. And in these dampening conditions, depending on how much more racing we get in, then are we going to see Lewis Clark get a good restart, pull away and try and take away that point for fastest lap of the race? But if the conditions have deteriorated any further, then it might not be conducive to setting a quicker lap time. So that lap time might end up staying. We'll have to wait and see. So let's just have a quick look at the replay of the incident that brought about this safety car period in the first place. It was coming out of Old Hall Corner. There is Simon Waugh. He got through and ahead of Tom Fuller. And then as they come along the circuit, let's just have a quick look. Tom Fuller, yeah, it was just the lightest of contacts. There's nothing in it. Neither car really changed its trajectory. Tom Fuller didn't particularly go to the right. And I don't think particularly either that Simon Waugh went to the left, but it was just the lightest of contacts between the two of them, and Simon Waugh came off the worst, I'm afraid. So that will be looked at by the officials. They will deem as to whether there was one perpetrator or another, or whether it was just one of those things, a racing incident. Now, they fixed Ian Mitchell's car. The white smoke that was coming out the back of it still looks as though it's roughly there, so it might not be fully fixed. Ian Mitchell, in the meantime, has dropped off the lead lap with that one, I think. Either way, he's now tumbled down towards the very tail end of the order. In fact, no, he probably will still be on the lead lap, actually. I think they got that car fixed before anybody else came back over the start-finish line, so he should be able to catch the train as and when we go racing once more. But for the moment, looks as though, yeah, the track is certainly getting wetter, isn't it? As the rain starts to come down ever more. And I think we may well see the race back underway again before too much longer. Safety car is, or was out. I think the safety car has peeled for the pit lane. So I think we're back under racing conditions once more. Yes, we are. So Lewis Clark can crack on. Ian Graham in 2nd place. It was a slower restart from Tom Fuller in the background. That is going to be Jamie Good at the inside of Simon Watts. And John Baker from the tail end of the grid is trying to feed his way through. Remember, John was in 2nd place earlier on when he retired at the wheel of the number 10 car. He's gone through and past Reece March, who looks to be having a few problems now as well. And where is that now going to put John Baker? Is it 3rd? No, it's not. It's going to be 5th still, because he did not in the end complete the move and through and ahead of the number 30 car of Jamie Good, who is another car I hadn't really picked up on, has come from 19th on the grid. So he has made fantastic progress, Jamie. So our race leader starting to pull away. This is Tom Fuller coming under pressure from Jamie Good. He's about to pick up another place if he can. So through goes Jamie Good from 19th on the grid. He is now going to be up into potentially 3rd position, is that? Yes, it is. John Baker is looking to try and get through into 4th place at the expense of Tom Fuller if he can. Remember, he's come from 17th on the grid, so these are good drives through the order for Jamie Good and for the number 10 car of John Baker. The other car of Tom Brown from the back of the grid hasn't quite made the same amount of progress, but he is far less experienced in the cars than others. Over Hilltop they'll come, in towards the braking area for Hislops, because the safety car period, of course, are all bunched back up together again once more, so it's an enormous train of cars feeding its way in towards Hislops, which includes Craig Ballantyne in the number 49 car. Just behind him is going to be the car of Richard Hay, I think that is, that's just behind him. Tom Brown hasn't really made a great deal of progress through the order on this one, but say he is one of the lesser experienced drivers in the field, but just impressed in terms of qualification pace. See how much wetter the tarmac looks as well as they head underneath the Warwick Bridge. Now, Ian Graham in 2nd place, still with the fastest lap of the race. Can John Baker gain another place? Yes, he can. There's lock brakes from Jamie Good, who might be going into the gravel trap at Lodge, and indeed he does. The number 30 car locks up straight into the gravel trap at Lodge Corner and couldn't get out of it. You could see he'd got lock on, but he wasn't cadence braking enough, and then when he plopped into the gravel, there was nothing he could do to change the direction of the car. So that is Jamie Good. The charge through the order has not quite worked for him in the end, so he will drop like a stone down through the order, and it now means that John Baker from 17th on the grid is now up into 3rd place. Change of position there to Craig Ballantyne, gains a place. Jamie Good looks rather frustrated, but that was all of his own volition. There was nobody else involved at all, just locked the brakes and couldn't get the car turned in. Now, Simon Watts at the wheel of the number 23 has now got Reese March right behind him at the wheel of the Mintex car. So they are heading along there. There's Jamie Good's car, and that is pretty much in the firing line, I would say, again up at Lodge Corner. So if he can go off there, someone else can. Are they going to cover it with localised yellows for the next 4 minutes? Reese March almost onto the rear bumper of Simon Watts, but just got the car stopped in time. Then runs onto the grass coming out of Shell Oil's corner, which will hamper his progress very briefly. But he's in a good little train, actually. So John Baker, followed by the number 53 car of Tom Fuller, then Simon Watts, then Reese March are all together. The leading pair are very much together as well. And John Baker in 3rd place now. The number 10 car set the fastest lap of the race last time through, 2 minutes 16.321, bringing the gap down between himself and the car in 2nd place of Ian Graham down to just 3.6 seconds. And he was about a full second quicker than Ian Graham last time through. But with 3 minutes to go, they're going to be on to their penultimate lap of the race this next time through. So this is lap number 5 that they are on. Through Druids go our leading pair. There's John Baker in 3rd, Tom Fuller, followed by Simon Watts and then Reese March in the Mintex car. That's the top 6. Underneath the Warwick Bridge and up towards Lodge. Looks as though localised yellows are just covering Jamie Good for the moment. And what can Lewis Clark do? Because he's leading this race, but he hasn't as yet got the extra 5 points for fastest lap. Can he do it this time through? Over the start-finish line he goes and sets the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 14.722, which is bettered a split second later by John Baker, who does a 2 minute 13, and now we've got another car off in the gravel trap, and that's going to be Richard Hay, I'm afraid, at Lodge Corner. So another car that's had a moment, 2 cars in the gravel trap at Lodge. I think I might know what will be coming next, with 2 cars off, both in places which arguably are dangerous. Yeah, red flags come out, and that is going to bring about the final result, I'd have thought, because we are past 75% distance of the scheduled time, and with the red flags coming out, we are highly unlikely to get any restart on that one. It means we go back a lap, and when we go back a lap, Lewis Clark hadn't set that fastest lap, so that will get discounted. So I think for the first time, yes, he might have claimed the 30 points for the win, but through no fault of his own, the extra 5 points for the fastest lap will have escaped him purely because of the red flags coming out slightly earlier than the anticipated race finish. What was it, 2 minutes and 16 seconds still to go? But for Lewis Clark, he's still pretty much untouchable in terms of this championship so far. We are 6 races in. He's qualified on pole every time and has won all 6 races. So he will lead the race. It will be Ian Graham in 2nd place And when we go back a lap, was John Baker still there in third? I think he was, but these will be unofficial results that we'll be bringing you. The official results will be confirmed in due course at tsl-timing.com. You can pick up the official results later on this evening, should you wish. So the cars making their way back around the circuit, and with, I think now, the timekeepers just confirming that that is checkered flag as well. The cars will not be heading back out for a restart. It has not been the finish to the day that we wanted, but we have had some brilliant racing from the Focus Cup in both of their races in what have been changeable and tricky conditions. And the fact that, of course, that Simon Walton, the man behind the championship, has put on a special offer for novice drivers to join in for this weekend at a discounted rate, which he will continue for the rest of the season. It was one of those novice drivers, Richard Hay, that was just caught out in those tricky conditions. So let's just confirm the unofficial results for you. It was a win for Lewis Clark, with Ian Graham in second place, and John Baker was there in third at the point that the red flags came out. Tom Fuller was fourth, with Simon Watts in fifth, and Reece March completed the top six. Richard Wynne was there in seventh place, with Rich Hall in eighth place, and ninth place was Rob Chalmers, who was there in ninth place, with Craig Ballantyne completing the top 10. Then as we move to 11th position, it was the car that brought about the red flag, Richard Hayes, who's running in 11th, but of course this is unofficial results. John Ogden was next up, and then it was going to be the number 28 car of Thomas Brown ahead of the number 5 machine, which was in the hands of Craig Appleton, who started right towards the front end of the grid. Johnny Mitchell was next up with Abby Walton, and then the number 21 car of Sarah Hall was running at the back. Ian Mitchell, a call to the pits, meant that he just about stayed on the lead lap, but Jamie Good and Simon Waugh were two retirees from that one. Jamie Good into the gravel trap, the first of the two cars up there. And of course, we saw into the barriers Simon Waugh, which brought about our first safety car period. So all of the Ford Focus competitors heading in towards the pit lane. We will catch up with them when they are next back out on circuit around about a month's time. Was it 4 weeks' time? The 27th of July, Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. We'll see round 7 and 8 of the championship. So from everybody at Oulton Park, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.